All right. So in the previous classes, we have seen how to locate web elements using Playwright built-in locators and CSS and then XPath. So from today, we are going to start interacting with the elements. So how we can interact with the elements and how we can perform the different actions on the elements and how we can validate those elements on the web pages. So first, let us start with some basic elements like how to uh, perform actions on the input elements and input boxes and radio button checkboxes. Then we will start with some drop downs. So these are the different type of elements we can see in the next 3 to 4 sessions. We are going to focus more on the different type of web elements. We will perform different type of actions, different type of validations. And parallelly, I will also try to introduce a different type of assertions on different type of elements. Okay. So first let us start with the input elements and then radio buttons and then checkboxes, how we can handle them. So for that, I'm taking my application called Test Automation Practice, blogspot.com. So here you can see the different element, GUI elements, name, email, phone number, address, some radio buttons, checkboxes, and we have some drop downs. So there are different type of elements. In the coming sessions, I will discuss all these types of elements, whatever I have shown you on this particular web page. Okay. These are all elements, a different type of elements. So today we will see how we can handle this input elements and radio buttons and then checkboxes. Okay. So let's go back to the PyChamp and create new directory for today's class, day 22. And inside this, I'm creating new Python module. And first I will create one module called test hyphen. I call it as an input box, text area. All these things are exactly same. Okay, so now first of all, we need to import PyTest and the Playwright Sync API. From Playwright Sync API, we need to import page and expect. Now let us start right to the function, test function. So test underscore function will always start with the test underscore called as a input box. And page picture should come from the page class. Okay. So first thing we need to launch our application as a page.goto and specify the URL of the application. Listen carefully. So once we have done it, I will also give the one assignment based upon today's concepts. Okay. If you have understood this well, then you can perform the assignment later. So this is the URL. So once you launch this URL, first element which we are going to interact is input element. So this is the name. This is input box or text box, email, phone, and this radio button, check boxes. So most of these elements are having same tag, which is input tag. So if I inspect this element, you can see the tag name is input. And similarly, if I try to inspect some radio button here and the tag name is input, and you can see the checkbox is also an input. Sometimes you can say div tags, and sometimes you can, most of the times you can see input tags. So these are all input elements because we need to pass some input. So here the text input. Here also this is kind of input. Selecting the radio button is one of the input, and checking the checkboxes is also a user input, right? These are all input related stuff. So let us see how we can handle them. So first let us start with the input box. So to locate this input box, simply let's inspect this element, go to selector hub, and you can write your own CSS, or else you can simply get it from the CSS, from the selector hub. So simply it is giving one CSS, hash and name. Hash is representing ID. The value of ID is, if I look at this element, and this is the input element. So there is an ID here, right? What is the value of ID? Name is a value of ID. So that's the reason it's giving hash and name. So this is able to locate element. This is simply CSS. Now I'm going to locate the element using CSS. So as I said before, most of the times we use CSS only to locating the element, but sometimes I will also show you Playwright locators. But XPath is very rarely used. Most of the times we can simply ignore XPaths. Okay. Page dot locator, and this is a CSS locator. This is actual element. Okay, so if you want to perform, so suppose single action I want to perform, suppose I just want to pass some text in the input box. So straightforward, you can say fill and some value you can pass like this. But I want to perform multiple actions. So before passing the value, I want to check this input box is visible or not, or this input box is enabled or not. That means it is allowing us to provide the value or not. Some input boxes will be disabled state. So in that case, we cannot pass any value into this. right? So first, before passing the value, we need to check whether this is visible or not, and then enabled or not. So whenever I want to perform multiple actions on this element, better to store this element in a variable. Okay, so I can create some variable called, I can say text underscore box, some variable I have created, so that I can refer this variable multiple times. So now I can verify this element is visible or not. So the first validation I'm taking here is on the input box. So the first validation is what? Visibility and enable or not. Visibility and enability. So these are the two things I'm going to verify. So before filling the data. So to do this, we have a method called expect and pass this input element, text box element, right? So how we can check the visibility of the element? Same method which is common for all the elements. Just presence of element or visibility of the element. Visibility of the element and enable or not we can verify. So simple, expect text underscore box. Text underscore box is an element, actual element dot to be visible. So this method is common for all the elements, guys. Okay, it's not only input box. If you want to check the visibility of the radio button, checkboxes, drop down, image, links. So this method is a common for every type of element because just we are verifying only visibility, the presence of element on the web page. So this method is a common for all the elements. Now this assertion will make sure that element is visible or not. Now I want to verify the enable or not because only the element presence is not enough. We need to also check the disable of enable or not. Then only we can pass the value. So I can put expect. So text underscore box, and to check the enable or not, again, we have a method called to be enabled. To be enabled. And again, for every method, there is an opposite method also there. Like if, for example, let's say to be visible. Suppose if you want to test this in the negative way, not to be visible. Similarly, not to be enabled. For every method, there is an opposite method is there. So to be visible and to be enabled. So these two assertions will check whether that element is visible or enabled or not. Again, this is also same for almost all the web elements. Now, so once we verified this, then I will try to pass some value into the input box. So then, okay, so before passing, I can also do some assertions on the element. These are all GUI validations. These are all related to GUI validation. So here in these two validations, we're just verifying the visibility and enability. So I want to verify the attributes also because every element is having certain attributes. I want to verify those attributes. So for example, let's say this particular element, if I inspect this element again, one more time, first name, and you can see there are multiple attributes. There's a class, ID, max length, placeholder, required type. There are multiple attributes are there. So I want to verify a particular attribute and the value of the attribute also. So for example, this particular input box allowed maximum 15 characters. So the max length attribute is there. So according to my UI requirement, I just want to verify this element should accept only 15 characters or not. So this attribute clearly says this is the maximum length is only 15. So this is a validation I want to do. This is the validation I want to do. So this particular element is having max length attribute or not. If it is having that value of that attribute 15 or not, we need to check. Okay, so to do this, we can add one more assertion here. So check the attribute of the element. Again, this is again same for all types of elements. Check any attribute of the particular element. Not only one attribute, we can check all other attributes of the element. So take the same expect and take the same element. And here there is one more method called to have attribute. So you no need to remember all the methods, guys. Just if you just type dot to, it will display all the methods. You can choose appropriate method. And to have attribute. And here we need to pass two parameters. The first parameter is what is the name of the attribute. And if I go back to the page and let me take max length. So this is the name of the attribute, max length, comma, And what is the value of the attribute? 15 we are expecting according to the requirement, according to the value. So this particular assertion will check the text box is having max length attribute, which is again having 15. This is a validation. If you, instead of 15, if I give something else, this assertion will fail. Okay. But if we want to capture the value of the attribute, for example, here I'm just directly I put the assertion. Now, for example, I want to capture this value. Not only this attribute, if we want to capture the value of any other attribute from this HTML, from the DOM. So then we have one method called get attribute. Even in Selenium also, we have the same type of a method, get attribute method. So by using that, we can get the attribute value from that particular element. So apart from this assertion will verify the maximum length 15 or not. Suppose if you want to capture or get the attribute of the element, then you can use it. So this is again same for all kinds of element. Get an attribute of the element. So any element, if you want to get the attribute and value of that element, simply you can use one method called get attributes. Input element. So this is a element, web element dot get attribute. This is a method get attribute. And inside this, we need to specify which attribute you want to get. Let's say I'm passing max length here. Now what this will return actually, this will return the value of this particular attribute. So whichever attribute you specified inside the double quotation here, this particular method, get attribute method, will return the value of this particular attribute. Similarly, if you say, for example, when I say class, then it will return form control. When I say ID, then it returns name. And if I say placeholder, then it returns enter name, like this. So if you want to get a value of the property of the particular element, then we can use get attribute, get an attribute of the element. And this will return something for us. So we can put that value, let's say max length. Then you can print it. So we cannot use this value in the assertion because in Selenium, especially Playwright Python, we don't have assertions provided to verify the data. Okay, so assertions are provided to verify the elements. So that is the one important thing we need to understand here, because there is a differences between Playwright and TypeScript, JavaScript, Playwright with Python. So if I go back and see Playwright Python, and let me show you. So go to the assertions, and these are the list of assertions provided. And if I look at each and every expectation, we need to pass a locator as a parameter. Locator means what? The element locator. Right? So these are all the methods are provided. And other than this, you can see all expectations, all expect methods taking the only locator part. And only one expect is taking the response because we will use this for API testing. And rest of all of them, we can use it for web testing. And only locator is taking. This is Python. So if I look at this JavaScript, TypeScript, I'm selecting Node.js, which is basically related to JavaScript and TypeScript. Now look at here. So they are providing assertion for locators. These are all locators we can pass. But additionally, it is also providing other type of assertions. Here we can pass the values also. But these things are not available in Python. Okay, so we cannot compare the value. We cannot check the data on the web page. We can verify or we can put assertions only on the elements and their attribute values. Okay, so that is the reason if I go back here, we put validation like this. Expect, we need to pass the locator, element locator, then to have attribute, attribute name and value. But again, if you want to capture the length, then you can use an additional method like this, get attribute of max length. But once you get this max length, you cannot write assertion, another assertion to compare this max length. Again, if you want to put any other assertion, PyTest assertion you can put. In the PyTest also we have assertion, right? You can say assert max length equal to, I can verify 15 like this. Double equal to is a operator. So you can put like this. So this is a variable. This is a PyTest assertion. Okay, but when you're working with the Playwright, PyTest assertions, we are not going to use. Okay, so most of the times we use always playwright assertions, not the PyTest assertions. But when you working with Selenium and PyTest, there we prefer to use PyTest assertions. But here we are not going to use PyTest assertions. Okay, so what we need to understand here is Playwright with Python provided assertions only on locator elements or elements locator, but not the value. So here, what is this max length? The value we captured from by using get attribute. So this value, if you want to compare, we cannot put any assertion. But in Playwright TypeScript and Playwright Java, we have a special methods are there. Like we can use expect value dot to be. Like this, we can put in the to be. If I pass the value, it will compare. But in Selenium Python, so in PyTest Python, we don't have such options. So just this, we can use it for only for printing purpose. I can say maximum length of input box. I can just print maximum length. So we are not going to do anything with this. So because this assertion anyway, it is validated. Max length is 15 or not. It is just for only printing purpose. I have written this. Okay, so few things we have seen so far. So we verified visibility of the element and enable or not. And also we have verified the value of the particular attribute. And then we can also capture the value of the particular attribute. So these are the few things, a few validations we can do on the input boxes. And finally, we can put the text. So how we can pass the text in the input box? We have already used many times, right? What is the final method we have? Fill, passing the value or fill the text in input box. Fill the text inside the input box. So we have a one method called fill. Fill the text. So to fill the text, simply text underscore box dot fill of, here you can pass some value. So you can pass whichever value you want like this. Okay. So these are the few operations most of the times we will do. And one more thing I'll show you. Suppose here I have already filled some value. So once I fill this value, what will happen normally? This value will go and fill inside the text box. Now I want to capture the value from the input box. And can we see this value anywhere in the HTML after entering here? Can we see this value anywhere in HTML? No, right? The same properties are still there. These are fixed attributes. They won't change. So if you want to capture this value from this input box, because we don't have any attributes. So to capture this value from the input box, we have one method called input value method. So after filling the text, I'll try to get the value from the input box. Simply what you can do, get the input value from input box. So I have already filled that value, but I want to just capture it. Simply take this element text box dot, the method is what? Input text. Sorry, input value. Okay, so this will actually return the value. So whatever value we have entered, that will be returned. So I'm just storing in the variable entered value. And again, we cannot do any validation on this because this is simply a value. It is just used for printing purpose. So I can say value entered is value entered. That's it. So this is how we can do different type of actions and validations on input boxes most of the times. Even if you find a big input box like test area and all, these are the common operations. And there are certain assertions which are common for all kinds of elements, especially these two. And this is also same common. And this is especially for input box. And again, this is again common. So we can verify the value of attribute for any other element. And again, this input value is there. This is also related to only input box. Okay. But rest of the methods or assertions are related to all kinds of elements. So this is how we can work with the input box element. Whichever type of input box we can find, we can do like this. Now, let us try to run the test. And before that, to see all the data, I can just put some wait for timeout so that I can see the UI properly. 5000 seconds. Okay. Now to run this, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to modify the configuration. I'll pass in headed mode and just say apply. So once you provided this option, you can directly run the test in a headed mode on Chromium browser by default. Say okay. Now go and run it. So very simple, just do one round of practice, you will be aware of it. So finally, it will perform all the validation. Now you can see the value is also entered in the same input box, and then it is got passed. Now you can see the maximum length of input box 15 is got printed, and the value which we have captured here using input value is also successfully captured here. Okay. So this is the one important thing you need to remember, guys. So in Playwright especially, whatever expectation or whatever assertions provided by Playwright, using those assertions, we cannot verify the data values like a string value, integer value, we cannot verify. Okay, so that's the reason we use input box and to have attribute and text value. So here we cannot do anything with the max length. And here also we cannot do anything with the interval. We cannot anything means what? We cannot put assertion on these two. If you still want to put assertion on these two, you need to go with the PyTest assertions. And just we can compare the values using assert command. Okay. So this is simple. And with this understanding, you can try with any other type of input elements. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next type of elements. Radio buttons and checkboxes are important. Now, what is the difference between radio button and checkbox? Both are providing for options only, right? Just for selecting an options. But in the radio button, we can select only one radio button at a time. We cannot select multiple. And this is the radio buttons group. And in the checkboxes, we can select more than one checkbox. This is also checkbox group. We can select more than one checkbox. We can call it as a check or uncheck. Check or uncheck, select or unselect. And if you already selected male radio button, and if you select another one, it will automatically disable. So in the radio buttons, we can select only one radio button at a time. Checkboxes, we can select multiple checkboxes. It depends upon your choice. Okay. So we'll see how we can handle them. So very simple. Let me take a new file, test underscore. I call it as a radio buttons. Okay, so in the radio buttons, again, I'll write import PyTest and sync API, and let us write another test function, test underscore. You can call this a radio underscore buttons. Page fixture comes from the page class. All right, so now I'm again launching the same page. And here, page dot go to. This will launch my page. Now we need to locate the radio buttons. Okay, so now we go back and see there are two radio buttons currently we have. There are two radio buttons currently we have. So yeah, to have attribute method accepts two arguments. Both are strings. Okay, we can look at this first of all. Let me go back and see. Just a moment, guys. Go to input box. I verified this one, right? So get attribute of what? Max length. Max length is a attribute that you can put in the double quote. And the value is there. So value is also part of the double quote, right? So that you can directly put. So both are strings. Both are strings. And if I go back and see the implementation of this get attribute, so everything is a string, str and str. So both are strings. Only strings are allowed. And attribute and the value of attribute. That's it. Okay, now come back. So go to the radio buttons. So this is a page. Now I want to deal with the two radio buttons here. So by default, none of them are selected. Okay, no one is selected. Now I want to first locate some radio button because we can select only one radio button at a time. So to locate this radio button, I can still inspect this element. And also one more thing, guys, these elements, if you want to locate, you can also use get by role on get by label also, because these are all the labels actually. but I'll try to use CSS. If you want to use labels, you guys can go ahead and use it. I think somebody is writing something. Please don't do anything. Okay. Okay. So now let's inspect this radio element. I'm inspecting this male radio element. If I look at this, just a circle you need to inspect and see what are the attributes are there: input, class, ID, name, some type and value. So these are the attributes which we have. So if I go back and see selector hub, it is straightforward showing some CSS. So it basically it is user ID attribute. So hash is representing ID. The value of ID is what? Male. So this is locating the male radio button. So I'm taking this one. And how to locate this element? Page dot locator, pass the CSS. So this will actually return the radio element. So I'm just putting inside the variable male underscore radio. Right. So now I want to add some assertions on this. Same assertions. In the input box, we have seen two types of assertions. Like we can verify the visibility and enable or not. So same thing we can use it for radio button also. Visibility of the element and enable not. So instead of text box, just pass radio button element. So these two will verify visibility and also enable or not. And after that, we can also check whether it is already checked or not. So as of now, it is not checked, right? So by default, these none of the radio buttons are not checked. So I want to verify the default state of this element. So by default, it is not selected. That means it is not checked. How we can verify that? Take this element, and we can put that in the assertion expect of, and here. So normally, if you want to verify it is checked or not, so then we can use a method called to be checked. To be checked. So this method will pass if it's already checked. But if you want to verify it is not checked, right? We want to verify it should not be checked. That is our expectation. So we can add opposite. So instead of using not to be checked, simply we can say not to be checked. For every assertion method, there is an opposite method also there. This is the negative testing. So the mail later button not to be checked. That is my expectation. So it should pass actually, because by default the radio button is not checked. Okay, this should pass. This assertion should pass. Negative test. Now here I'm verifying what male radio button should not be checked. This is the by default feature. Now I want to check that particular radio button. So after verification of this, now I want to verify. I want to check it. So how we can check or select or check radio button. So for that, what can do is we can simply take this element, whatever male radio button we have taken. So again, write one more assertion. Expect of male radio dot simple call one method called check. Sorry, we need to just perform the action. This is an action method. Selecting and check radio button is what? This is an action we will perform. So here this is the assertion, but we are not performing any action on the element. So before performing action, I'm just verified this is not checked. So after that, I'm performing action. So mail underscore radio dot check. So this is the method. So this will actually select the radio button. So after selection, I can do this validation one more time. And this time, what is the method we are expecting here? It should be checked. So dot to be checked. So before checking, it should not be selected or should not be checked. But after checking, it should be checked. So multiple validation. Okay. So these are the few things we can do on the radio buttons. It's very simple and straightforward. But in checkboxes, we have multiple things to discuss. But radio buttons is very straightforward. So let us run the test and see. And this is test underscore radio buttons. Again, I'm running in headed mode, hyphen headed. So I'm not printing anything in the console. I'm just added all verification points or assertions, and then I'm directly executing it. Run is PyTest. Okay, so it went very faster. So we're not able to whether selected or not, right? So what I can do is I can put some wait time. Page dot wait for timeout 5000 seconds. Now let us run one more time. We will be able to see whether it is selected or not. See, just notice here. Yeah, the male is got selected. Same thing we can do for a female also. Done. So this is how we can do certain validations on the radio buttons. Because at a time we can select only one radio button. Now let us see the checkboxes. In the checkboxes, we can do many number of operations because we can select one checkbox, multiple checkboxes, and we can also capture the values of the checkboxes, the different things we can do. So let me create another one, new Python file, test underscore checkboxes. So again, same thing. So first we need to import PyTest, then import sync API and write a test function. So test underscore checkbox, test underscore checkbox, and here page picture and page class. Okay, so here I'm going to show you multiple operations. Listen carefully. This is important for interview perspective also. They can ask different questions from this. Okay, so now first thing, let's launch the page, page.goto, and launch this URL. So after launching this URL, the first and most action I'm going to do is first we will select the one checkbox. We will try to select one checkbox. Let's say I want to select Sunday or I want to select Tuesday. So whichever the checkbox you want to get, you can get it. Okay, so here, because we are working with multiple checkboxes, and instead of, okay, so if you want to work with a group of checkboxes, better to go with the CSS. Or else we can also use get by label because there are multiple labels are there. These are the labels. So by using this label, we can access corresponding checkboxes. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, let us say Sunday, inspect this Sunday. Sunday is a label actually. You can see the direct label tag and input. So both are there in the same div tag. So in this particular case, you can use label directly. But sometimes the input is there in another div tag. Label is there in another div tag. Then you cannot use label. And we have noticed this scenario in Orange HRM application. Okay, so here both the labels are part of same div tag. So we can use label to get the input element. Okay, so this is again Playwright locator. I'm trying to use it here. So my requirement, the first requirement is what? Select a specific checkbox. Let's say I'm going to select Sunday checkbox. Select a specific checkbox, single checkbox I'm talking about here. So how to select page dot? I'm using Playwright locator here. You can still use CSS for single element. I'm just showing label. Get by label. Get by label. And what is the label of the first Sunday element is Sunday. The label itself is Sunday. Just provide here. So this will actually get the element locator that I'm going to store in a variable called Sunday underscore checkbox. Sunday underscore checkbox. So this is the element. Now on this element, I will put multiple assertions. So first I will check this one first. How to select the checkbox? Same method. In the radio method, whatever the in the radio button, whatever method we have used, same method, which is checker dot check. So we have captured the checkbox element here using label, and we have checked it. The Sundays got checked it. But how we can verify whether it's checked or not? How we can verify? Same, just like a radio button. Expect, take the same element, and how we can verify it is checked or not? Dot to be checked. That's it. Simple verification. I grab this checkbox element and check it, and then verify it is successfully checked or not. One simple validation. Okay, so I will also put page dot timeout 5 seconds. So let us see whether it is properly checked or not. So I'm going to run it. I'll pass arguments hyphen edit. Okay, now run this. You just like a radio button, there is not much difference. Yeah, now you can see the checkbox is got selected. So get by label is properly working. Now let us see few more operations, what we can do on the checkboxes. This simple, very basic thing, right? We just capture the element and perform the check action and then verify whether it's checked or not. Now I'll perform another action. Let's say sometimes we need to work with the multiple checkboxes, not only single checkbox. So my requirement is I want to count total number of checkboxes. I want to count total number of checkboxes. And also I will try to perform different actions like selecting all checkboxes at once. Or I want to select the first three checkboxes. Or I want to select last three checkboxes. Or I want to select checkboxes based upon my choice. Or two or more checkboxes randomly I want to select. So there are various actions we can do on this. So before that, let us see how we can grab those checkboxes, all the checkboxes into a variable. So here we can write one CSS for all these elements, but the CSS will return one locator type of object. So that is not a list type of object actually. So if we have a list type of object, then only we can work with independently. Then only we can work with independent checkboxes. But if all the checkboxes are in the form of a locator format, we cannot work with independent because there are multiple are there. So here I'm going to use some approach. I'll show you. So what is the thing we need to do? Yes, step number 1. So here count number of checkboxes. Let us see first. Okay, so step number 1, what I'm going to do is step 1. I will maintain all the labels in a list collection. So whatever labels are there for all these checkboxes, I will maintain all the labels in one single list collection. So how we can create, simply you can say days equal to like this. This is a list collection basically, right? List is what? Which contains a group of values. What are they actually? These are all the labels. And by using these labels, I will get the each and every checkbox. By using these labels, I will get the checkbox. Just like a first approach. So when I pass label here, we are able to get the checkbox, right? Similarly, for every label, I will pass each and every label inside this label method and I will get the checkbox and that I'm going to store in another list. I'm going to store in another list. Simple logic, I'll explain. Listen this. This is a very crucial part. So what I'm going to do is here we have multiple checkboxes. Each checkbox is having labels. Now I will maintain all the labels in one list like this. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. So this is a list I maintain. Now what I will do is I will write one looping statement. Inside the loop, I will read each and every label from this list. By using get by label method, we have a get by label method, right? Here I will pass this value. And what this will return? This will return actual checkbox element. And that element I will store in another list. So here actual checkbox will be stored. Sunday checkbox, Monday checkbox, so on. So the main list is what? This one. This list maintains the labels of all the checkboxes. Then inside the looping statement, I will read each and every label one after another. And also I will apply this get by label method by taking this label, and this get by label method will return the actual checkbox element or locator of the checkbox element that I am going to store inside the another list. This is another list. So I will call it as a checkboxes list. Here we call it as a days labels, which contains only labels. And I will apply this get by label method for each and every label and grab all the elements into another list. Now, what is this checkboxes list contains? All the checkboxes in the form of element locators. Okay, so this is the logic I'm going to apply. Listen this, very crucial. And now I maintain normal list. So by using this list one by one, I will read each and every label, and then I will get the checkbox just like this, get by label. So I'm start writing the for loop. And before writing the for loop, what I'll do is I will also create one checkboxes empty checkboxes empty list. How to create an empty list like this, empty list. So now in the looping statement, I will read each and every label, apply this particular method get by label, and once I get a checkbox, that I'm going to store in a checkboxes list. Okay, that is a procedure. Now let me write a for loop. So for day in days. So how exactly it will work? What is a days here? Days is a list collection which contains the labels. Now from the days, the first label will be stored in day. First label, first round of execution, first label. Now inside this for loop, I will use page dot get by label. And whatever label I'm getting inside the day, that I'm going to pass it here. Now what this will return actually? By passing label, I'm getting the actual checkbox element. And that I'm going to store in a actual variable called just a checkbox. Now again, one more thing I want to do. So by passing this label inside the day, I capture the checkbox. And where we want to add the checkbox now? Inside the checkboxes collection. So in the next statement, just append this checkbox to the checkboxes list collection. How we can append? Checkboxes dot, we have a method, collection method called append, right? Append. Now we can pass it. This is the procedure. Okay, this is a step 1 and step 2. So step 1 is what we have done is we just created a list array or list collection which contains only labels, and another list collection is empty. Now by using this looping statement, we read each and every label one after another and get the checkbox element by using the label and append or add that particular element into the checkboxes. And once this for loop is completed, what this checkbox list collection contains? What this collection contains? Checkboxes, actual checkbox elements, not the labels. By using labels, we already grab all the checkboxes into checkboxes list collection. Understood everyone? So this is the logic. Okay, so now let me simplify this. So instead of writing this loop like this, we can also do it within a simple shortcut approach is there. Let me show you this. One single statement, we can finish everything. Instead of writing this looping statement, I can write a single statement. I think previously have not seen this syntax. This is a new syntax. Just observe. Checkboxes equal to, in the list itself, I will write this page dot get by label day. Then I will start writing for day in days. This is single statement. Instead of writing 3 statements using looping statement, I just written single statement. Let me tell you how exactly this will work. Same thing. First, it will start executing from here. So for day in days, what is this days? Days is a list collection. So from this particular days, it will take the first value. What is the first value from the days? Sunday. That will be stored in the day variable. And that is again passing into this particular function. And this particular function return the element that is going to add to the checkboxes. So the multiple actions are doing in one single statement. This is a shortcut approach. I'll repeat again, listen carefully. So what is the first value from the days? Sunday. So from the days, Sunday will come into day. First label is what? Sunday. Label, I'm talking about label. Now the day contains a Sunday label. And that again, it will pass into the function. And what's the label we are passing? Sunday. And get by label, Sunday means what? It will actually return the checkbox. And once it is written the checkbox element, that it is added to the checkbox list collection. Because overall we put in one list. This is the first round. So first round, what the checkbox contains? Sunday checkbox. Now the next round of execution. Second round, Monday will be stored in day, Monday. And this Monday again passing into the get label. And that is again written the Monday element added to the checkbox. So second element is what in the checkboxes? Monday checkbox will be added. So like this, how many times it will repeat? Till it completes all the labels from the days collection or days list. This is the execution process. Okay. So if you do not understand this, no worries. You can try to use this looping statement. Same looping statement in the Python, it is also supported like you. So within the list collection itself, we are able to do everything. So is this clear, everyone? Please confirm in the chat box once again. This particular statement is clear. And also loop, how I have written the loop, why I have written the loop. Okay. So this is a shortcut instead of writing the looping status. So ultimately what we have achieved here by writing this, what we have achieved here, we have captured all the checkboxes by using labels and stored them in a variable called checkboxes. Okay. So what if some values, what some values not possible here? This is for all the values I'm talking. Count number of checkboxes. I'm not talking about a few or some values here. Here I'm talking about all the values of checkboxes. So if you want to handle one or two checkboxes, again, there is a different approach. So this is for all the values. So from the days, we are reading each and every value into the day. We are passing into this and grab the checkbox. So now the checkboxes contains what? All the checkbox elements in the form of elements or locators. Okay. Now what we can do with this? Okay, we captured all the checkboxes. Then we can go and select all the checkboxes and next assertion 3. So we have just count the number of checkboxes. You can use count function. You can use length function also here. Or else, because you already captured the checkboxes, you can also use count function. Anything is fine. You can also use count function. And here, if you want to count this labels, you can use length function because both are list collections only. Again, this is also list. Sorry, guys. So this checkbox is also list. So how to find the count? Count, print number of checkboxes. Total number of checkboxes. How many are there? So how we can find? What is the checkbox? Checkbox is what? It's a list actually, right? Checkboxes is a list collection. How to find number of items in a list? What is the method we use? List collection. Len. Okay, so we can say dot len. So this will actually print a number of total number of checkboxes. So count to number of checkboxes. Now the third requirement. Okay, now I already captured the checkboxes here. Now my requirement is I want to check all the checkboxes. All the checkboxes in one shot like this. All the checkboxes I want to select one shot. And also I will verify whether it is got selected or not. Suppose by default, none of them are selected. By default, all checkboxes are empty. Now after selecting it, I just want to check whether checked or not. Again, select another one, again check it. Select and again check it. Select and again check it. This process I will repeat for all the checkboxes. So then we'll see how we can do this. Third requirement. Select all the checkboxes and assert them. Assert each checkbox is selected. Each checkbox is selected. Each checkbox is selected. Okay. Now I captured all the checkboxes. Now we want to select all of them. So to select all the checkboxes, we need to write again looping statement here. Looping statement because we want to get one by one. This checkboxes is what? A list collection. And what this contains all the elements. Checkbox elements. Now we need to read each and every element and perform the check option. Check operation. Let's say for checkbox in checkboxes. In operator I'm using. In operator along with for loop. So how it will execute? From the checkboxes, it will get the first checkbox into the variable. And inside this, I will check it. Checkbox dot check. What is the method to select the checkbox? Check. And after checking this box, I want to verify with this whether this checkbox is successfully selected or not. Then inside this loop itself, we can put one assertion, asset checkbox, and how we can verify dot to be checked, to be checked. That's it. So this loop will select all the checkboxes, and parallelly it will also verify whether it is properly checked or not. After checking, it is selected. It will be checked or not, also verified. Everything will be verified. Okay, now let us run this test and see. I'll put wait time also, because we'll able to see whether all checkboxes are selected or not in the third requirement. Right now, and because we already selecting something, right? And if you already selected, when I execute this loop, it will be unselect, because same method we will use for selecting or unselecting. So what I will do is I will just comment the first requirement code. Okay. Right. Run the test. Okay. Now you can just notice here, it should select all the checkboxes. Somehow it is getting failed. Okay. So now we'll see where it is failed. Yeah. Total number of checkboxes dot length. Length is actually a function, right? So this is the function we need to put in the bracket. No. Length of checkboxes. This is the actual way. Okay. By mistake, I have used Java syntax actually. This is the Python syntax. Okay. Now let us run one more time. Okay. So we'll see. Now it is selected all the checkboxes successfully, and assertion is also applied for all the checkboxes. Done. This is one type of requirement. We selected all the checkboxes. Now another suppose I have a requirement like I want to select the last three checkboxes from the list. Now I have 7 checkboxes totally, right? Now let's say you have 20 checkboxes, or you may have 50 or 100 checkboxes. I don't know how many are there, but I want to select the last 2 or 3 checkboxes from the end. Let's say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I want to select from the last, from the end. So then how we can do that? From the last 2 or 3 checkboxes, I want to select. And again, all checkboxes we are maintaining in the what? Checkboxes list. So what is a checkboxes contains? A checkboxes contains all the checkbox elements, all the checkbox element. See this, again, I'm repeating this. So this is a list collection, checkbox 1, checkbox 2, checkbox 3. We have multiple checkboxes. Now I want to get the last 3 checkboxes. How to capture them? In the list. You need to remember the list collection. You need to go back to the Python sessions. For the last 3 items, how can we grab them from the list? We have a slicing, right? We have a slicing concept. We can provide the range, like in the bracket, we can provide starting and ending indexes. Remember, even negative index also we can provide. And accordingly, we can grab the elements inside the list. So from the last 3 elements we want. So we need to provide the negative index here. Okay, so let me write another requirement. So the third one is done. Now the next requirement, fourth, select or check last 3 checkboxes. I don't know what are those last 3 checkboxes, but I just want to select from the last 3 checkboxes. Okay. Or else we can do one thing. So let us enable this code. So this will select all checkboxes, 7 checkboxes. And after selection of all 7 checkboxes, I want to unselect the last 3 checkboxes. So selected all of them like this, right? I want to unselect the last 3 checkboxes. Selection or unselection, we can do the same approach. So after selecting all checkboxes, now let me read again one by one, each and every checkbox. Again, we need to use a looping statement itself. So let me copy the same thing, same logic. But in this logic, what exactly we are doing? We are reading each and every checkbox and we are selecting and we are verifying whether it's checked or not. But this time we want to get only last three checkboxes, not all three checkboxes, not all seven checkboxes. So checkboxes is basically what list collection. So in the bracket, we can give slicing operator -3 colon. So -3 means what? Actually, here we need to provide the starting index. When I say only three here, it will check the first three checkboxes. But I want to check or unselect or select from last three checkboxes. So we need to give -3. Okay. So it will consider only last three checkboxes and then one by one it will store in checkbox. You can also write like that. That is also works. Okay. So it will store in this checkbox and it will check it. And what we need to do here, check or uncheck. Here we already checked all the checkboxes. Here we want to uncheck last three checkboxes. So what is the method? Instead of check, use uncheck. And if you're unchecked, what is the validation point? If it is unchecked, what is the validation? Not to be checked. Not to be checked. This is opposite because we have unselected it, unchecked. So it should not be selected. This is the validation. Okay. Let's run and see now. So after selection of all seven checkboxes here, we are unselecting last three checkboxes. Let's go and run it. So slicing operator, you have to use whichever way you want. Even if you use check, it will be the same, right? Yes. So check is used for checking the checkbox. Uncheck is used for uncheck the checkbox. That is the difference. Because we already selected seven checkboxes here by using check method. Again, once it's selected, I just want to unselect the last three. No, we don't use click here. Check or uncheck, that's it. In Selenium, we have a click method we use for everywhere. For radio button, checkboxes, button, everything. But here we have a special methods called check and uncheck. Okay, let's go and execute now. So first round, it is selected all seven checkboxes. Now we should look at here. Last three checkboxes should be unselected. Yes, now we can see Thursday, Friday, Saturday are unselected. So this is how we can simply change the logic according to our requirement. So these type of things mostly in interviews they will ask. So I'm just covering this part. Okay, now another requirement. Suppose I already have some checkboxes. Let's say some checkboxes are selected, some of them are unselected. Now my requirement is whatever checkboxes are already selected, I want to unselect or uncheck. And whatever checkboxes are not selected, I want to select them. Opposite. We can simply call as a toggling the checkboxes. Toggling means whatever is already checked, we need to uncheck. And whatever checkboxes are unchecked, we need to check them. Opposite. So let's see how we can do. So by the time this logic is executed, few of them are selected or checked, few of them are not selected. Now we need to verify them and accordingly we need to select or unselect. So the next requirement, fifth requirement, toggle checkboxes. Toggle checkbox. And also we need to do verification. For every uncheck or check, for both we need to do verification. Toggle checkboxes. So how to do the toggling of checkboxes? I'm same test function, I'm writing all the requirements. Okay, now again same the previous logic, whatever I have written, same thing we need to implement, but slight change. So in this loop, we are taking each and every checkbox here and immediately we are checking it and verifying it. And even this time also, in this requirement also, we need to work with all the checkboxes. Some of them are selected, some of them are unselected. But I want to check all the checkboxes. I want to get all the checkboxes. So here we no need to do any changes. But before checking, before doing checking and verifying, we need to verify whether it is unchecked or not. Right? Unchecked or not. If they are unchecked, then only we can do check. Otherwise, not. If it is unchecked, then only we can do check. Otherwise, not. Okay. So we need to put one if condition. Simple. If this particular checkbox, this is the actual element, right? Checkbox. So how we can verify that element is checked or not? Checked or not? there is a method called is checked, sorry, dot is checked. So this method will return true or false. Okay, so is checked method return true or false. If it is already checked, then return true. If it is not checked, then return false. Okay, so if this is return true, then what we need to do? Checkbox is checked is returns true. Means what? It is already checked. Now what we need to do? We need to uncheck it. We need to uncheck. So checkbox dot, instead of using check, we use uncheck. And what is the validation? Not to be checked. Not to be checked. Perfect. So if the checkbox is already checked, then uncheck it and verify whether it is unchecked or not. Else means what? We need to verify any other condition. Straight for if it is not checked means what? Suppose is checked is written false means what? It is unchecked. If it is unchecked, what we need to? We need to check it. So check dot checkbox dot check. And after checking again, we need to put the same assertion. Expect the checkbox. And what is the validation here? To be checked. Okay, to be checked. This is how we can simply write a logic. So we need to read each and every checkbox. If it is already checked, then uncheck and verify it is unchecked or not. And if the checkbox is not checked, then it returns true, returns false. Then in else block, just check the checkbox and verify it is checked or not. Okay. So this is how we can implement the logic. So now let us run all of them. So the first requirement is what? We need to select all of them. Now selected. Now last three we need to uncheck first. Yeah, last three is unchecked. Now first four should be unchecked. Last three should be checked according to the new logic. Now we can see first four are unchecked. Last three are again checked. So all assertions are got passed. So this is another type of scenario. Next one. Randomly I want to select. But in all the loops, sequentially, we have selected. Randomly, just I want to check. Like based upon index, because we are maintaining all the checkboxes in the list itself, right? Here. So by using index, whichever checkbox you want to select, randomly, you can select. Easy. This is very simple. Now the next requirement, sixth one. Randomly check checkboxes. Randomly check. So for example, I want to check 1, 3, 6 checkboxes. Depends on the index. So 1, 3, 6. Index will start from 0. Okay, index will start from 0, remember. Now, here I will maintain indexes in a list again. Indexes equal to what are the checkboxes I want to select. I will just put some numbers. Let's say 1, 3, 6. 3 checkboxes randomly I want to select. Now, write a looping statement. For I in indexes. Indexes is what? A list variable again. Indexes is what? It is a list variable. I in indexes. From the indexes, the first value is what? 1. That will be stored in I. Now I is representing what? An index. Okay. Now we already have all the checkboxes in this list collection. Now I want to extract the first checkbox. Then how to extract the first item from the list? Using index, can we extract? Using index, can we extract? Yes. So checkboxes of I. So what this will do? This will grab the first checkbox because we are using index number. Checkboxes is a list collection. So we are getting the first checkbox. First checkbox. So dot check it. Okay. And after checking it, again do the verification. Expect this particular checkbox, the first checkbox, dot to be checked. Done. The next round of execution, third index, third will be stored in I. Now it will get the third checkbox and it will select and verified. Now the next round, 6 will be assigned to the I. Now it will get the sixth checkbox. Then it will verify the sixth checkbox is selected or not. So 136. Only 136 will be selected randomly. Okay. Now let me comment these logics. Fifth one, fourth one, and a third one. Okay. Now still I'm using these checkboxes here. Let's run this code and see. 136 should be selected randomly. See, it went very faster. So 136 is got selected. So let us put wait time. And the wait time should put after coming out from this loop. Otherwise, that is also will be repeated multiple times. Just run it. Now you can see first in the sense Monday. Okay, because the index will start from 0. So all three successfully selected. So randomly, whichever the checkbox we want to select, we just able to select. Okay, so now the last requirement. By passing the label, I want to select the particular checkbox. What does it mean? I will just pass the label information. Accordingly, I should be able to select the checkbox. If I pass Sunday as an input, Sunday checkbox should be selected. If I give Thursday and the third day selector, checkbox should be selected. So depend on the label or value which we pass as a user, then appropriate checkbox should be selected. So based on the condition, let us see this. The last requirement on the checkbox. Select or checkbox based on the label or the input value. So if I give Friday checkbox should be selected. If I give Sunday checkbox should be selected. So it depends on the value. So what is the first variable we have to define? The day, weekday. So I'm taking one variable called Friday. This is actually the label only. Okay, Friday I'm taking. Now in the checkboxes, there are many checkboxes are there. We captured all the checkboxes in the form of elements. But here we are taking the label. So what we need to do by using this label, we need to get the checkbox. So again, we need to write a one for loop here. For the label, I'm taking one variable called label in days. Because we already maintain the labels here. In the days, we are maintaining the labels, all the labels, right? So from the days, I'm going to read each and every label one by one and compare with our expected label here. So how to compare? From the days, I'm taking each and every label one by one into this label variable. Inside this, I will compare. So how to compare this? If label, whatever label we are getting from the days collection equal to the weekday, what we are expected here. Okay, if this is true, then what we need to do now? From the days, whatever label we are getting, that label equal to our weekday, then we have to go and select it. So how to select it again? From that label, we need to grab the particular checkbox because this is a label. So from the label, we need to, by using label, how to get the checkbox? Page.get by label and pass the label. So this will actually return what? Checkbox. Now we need to select the checkbox. Checkbox dot check. And again, we can verify which is checked or not. Expect of checkbox expect dot checkbox dot to be checked. Done. So now if whichever label you have given here, this will match with this label. And only if it is matching, then only it will grab the checkbox and select it. Otherwise, no. Okay, and if you want to pass this input from the console, you can pass it. We have a method, right? Input method in the Python. So we can also dynamically pass this value and accordingly appropriate checkbox will be selected using this logic. Okay, yeah, this is the user input. So you can also get this value from the user by writing input function in Python. We already seen that in the Python classes. Okay, same thing, you can do it. So this logic will able to select whichever the checkbox you want based upon your choice, based on the label or input value by choice. Okay, so we no need to hard code this value also. So whichever the label we are passing, accordingly appropriate checkbox will be selected using this logic. Now I'm passing Friday here. Friday. Let's go and see whether selecting Friday or not. So I'll just put some wait time. After coming out from this in if for loop, then you have to put this. Otherwise, if you keep this inside the if for loop, it will repeat multiple times. Repeat and run it. Okay. So now it is started. I have given Friday. So now you can see Friday is got successfully selected. Similarly, whichever value we have given input, accordingly it will go and select the value from the checkboxes. Okay, so these are the different scenarios you need to aware of it, guys, because the list collection is most important whenever you are working with multiple elements, and especially here. So when I use CSS or XPath also, you can use it. CSS and XPath also you can use it. But the problem is when I use CSS and XPath, the group of elements will be not written in the form of list actually. The group of web elements will not be written as a form of list. So then you can, if they are not returning as a list collection, then you cannot add these expectations actually, because expectations works in Python only on the elements, not on the values, not on the texts. But if you use CSS and XPath, again, we need to grab the text content. Yeah, all text content. But expectations won't work on the text content. That's the reason in the beginning I've told you, right? All assertions provided in Python works only on the elements, not the text values. So that is the reason we need to choose this particular approach. Okay. But if it is CSS XPath is supported, but the expectations or assertions we cannot put properly. That's the problem. But in Selenium, there is no problem actually, because by default it will return array. So find elements, we can use find elements, we can use Selenium. So that is actually written a list actually, array list. So in that case, we don't have such problem. But here, this method, whatever I'm using, CSS or XPath, locator method we are using, right? Page.locator method. So that won't return the array list actually. That's the problem here. Okay. So go through this and practice all of them. And very important, in the next class, we will discuss about some more elements. And you can also do an assignment I'll give you based upon today's concept. Checkbox, input boxes, radio buttons, and checkboxes. Okay, let's go back to this page. And here you can find different elements. Name and password are the input elements. And you can see that the different checkboxes are there. If I inspect these checkboxes, you can see the input tag. Okay, input tag is there. So you can just cross check whether you're able to grab this input tag using label or not, because there is a BR is there, but still okay. BR is fine. This is just a breaking, but the label input is a part of uh, same thing actually. So this is the actual label. Yeah, you can see this is one label, this is another label. So the label contains the input here. Okay, so you can cross check again by using this label, you are able to accept this input or not. So these two are the input elements. These are the checkboxes and these are the radio buttons. And you can leave these drop downs and other things. I will discuss this later. You can just try these things. Okay, just whatever the requirements I have shown in the sessions, try to fulfill those requirements for the checkboxes and also radio buttons. Okay, so I will put this in the chat box. I will also provide the solution for this later. You guys can go through and automate this. Okay, so that's all for today's class. We'll stop it here. We will continue in the next class.